These videos have become some of my favorite videos to do, and that's why I say to you, welcome back to the pros, becoming a pro at prose. I love those alliterations, I love puns, and of course, I love wordplay. So today we're going to be talking and taking a closer look at Paula Hawkins' best-selling psychological thriller, The Girl on the Train. Dun dun dun! I'll be analyzing the first page. Also, I'll be diving into the prose to see how Hawkins uses language to pull us, the audience, into the mystery and establish the deeply flawed perspectives of our characters. We're going to explore how specific sentences drive the plot, reveal character motivations, and build a suspenseful, almost claustrophobic world. By breaking down Hawkins' stuff and her word choices, pacing, and narrative techniques, it helps us look at our own writing and not necessarily to write like her, but how we can look at our own writing to look for very specific things. For example, when we realize stuff is happening but nothing is really happening. Okay. Does every line contain one or more of these three elements: plot, character development, or world building? Is this passage or pro through the POV of a character so we can experience and allow it to be through their emotional experience and choices? Okay. Is it exposition for exposition's sake? Is it description for description's sake? So these are things that we get to look for. And so far, every book we've done in this series, this is the fourth book, the three other books, everything has had a purpose. Every line has either plot, character, or world building, or a combination of those three or two. Nothing is just description for description's sake. Everything has been through the POV of a character, and it shows their emotional experience because it's what they look at. Remember, what a character is noticing in the description is part of their POV. It is their emotional choice to recognize those things. A character looking at the sky is choosing to do that, and it tells you something about that character. Because you and I, if we were in an area, let's say we were on the beach, there's one thing you would be looking at, and then one thing I'd be looking at. If we were both looking at something, like let's say people in the distance, what I am paying attention to about those people is going to be different than what you pay attention to. And that is part of character development. All right. Now, since we are going to analyze The Girl on the Train, writing suspense and unreliable narratives, we should at least know what it is. So, what is The Girl on the Train for anyone that doesn't know? Girl on the Train was written by Paula Hawkins and published in 2015. So, that's what? At the time of this video, that's 9 years ago. Okay. Wait, no, 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So, this particular book is a psychological thriller that quickly became a global phenomenon. Phenomenon. The book is known for its unreliable narration, compelling mystery, and exploration of dark human emotions. Just for the record, unreliable narrator, those are fun because you never know if what you know is what you know. All right. This book was a New York Times bestseller, selling over 20 million copies. Can we put that into perspective? Okay. Let's say she makes 10% for every sale. So that's $2. $2. This is crazy. $2 times 20 million copies. There's no way she made $40 million. There's no way she made that kind of money. Anyway, that's a lot of money. All right. The novel is set in modern day. That's a lot of money. We should become writers, people. All right. The novel is set in modern day England and follows the story of Rachel, an emotionally troubled woman who becomes entangled in a missing persons investigations. So the writing is primarily for adults, and it stands out for its deep psychological character study and its use of multiple viewpoints to build suspension and keep readers guessing until the end. Now, this is going to be for educational purposes only. All right. Educational purposes only. I'm a writing teacher. I am also an author, but I am a developmental editor. Oh, and obviously, spoiler alerts. This is going to be chapter 1, also known Rachel. But I'm only going to do a couple. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. We're going to do 4 passages, depending on how long I go, because I try to keep this quick. But all right, let's do this. Boop. Let's get rid of this. Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to look for is plot, character, and world building. So we're going to do each line one at a time. All right. There is a pile. Oh, by the way, this is let's see what the tense is. There is a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. This is present tense. Present tense. So it's good. So we need to know what the tense is. We're also going to study what the movement is. So like how each line moves narratively into the next line and how each passage moves narratively to the next passage. So it'll show you how to break up passages and how to connect sentences. That's another thing we're studying in this exercise. And of course, POV focus. There is a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. All right. There is a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. This is considered plot. And the reason is because it's informing us of what's going on. It hasn't described, okay, it hasn't described anything yet. It is going to in a second, but it has described, so it's just plot. There is a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. Okay, because it is on the side of the train tracks, that becomes plot. If it was just there's a pile of clothing, that might fall under description for description 6. There's a pile of clothing, but it is unusual that is on the side of the train track. All right. Now, as far as movement goes, there is a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. So now we have to either talk about the train tracks because it's literally the last thing said, or we got to talk about the pile of clothing. So, light blue cloth, a shirt, perhaps jumbled up with something dirty and white. So, the movement is taking an element of this sentence and now defining that. So now we know this is description, but it isn't for description's sake because it is continued plot. It's it's telling us that the clothes are jumbled with some dirty whites. Okay, so they're left there for a reason. All right, it's probably rubbish, part of a load dumped into the scrubby little wood up. Okay, it's probably rubbish, part of a load dumped into the scrubby little wood up the bank. Okay. Now, this feels like character development as if it's through the opinion or thoughts of somebody because it is a commentary on the situation. Okay. So if you notice, the narrative movement is they are look, I already see my mother over here. My mother used to tell me all the time. So we know that it's in the POV of the main character, which also makes it first person POV. So the first thing they notice, so that actually changes. That's the other thing. We talked about this in Hunger Games. Once this sentence comes up, oh, look, I'm in the book, Tom said. Once this moment comes up, it changes everything before it. Now this entire moment is through the POV of a character, which means this is more than plot now. This becomes plot and character development. The fact that they recognize the colors, but the way they recognize it, light blue cloth, oh, it's a shirt, perhaps jumbled up. They don't really know exactly. They're not sure. So this is plot and character development. And then this is all commentary. It's probably rubbish part. It's probably a rubbish part of a load dumped. This is not plot, by the way. This becomes character development because it's just commentary on the possibilities of what it could be. It's not truth yet. It's part of a load dumped. It's probably If it didn't say probably, if it just said it's part it it is, or it's part of a load dumped in, if it said that, then it would be plot. But because it's probably rubbish, we don't know. It's just it's commentary. It could have been left behind by the engineers who work this part of the track. They're here often. This is also commentary, but this is what we call exposition. But it's character exposition. It's again commentary. And if you notice the movement, we got clothes, the color of clothes. What are they doing there? Well, they're probably a part of a load dumped. Okay. Wow. What do you mean just dumped? Well, usually they're dumped. This is they're here often. So maybe it's the engineers who work this part of the track. So narratively, it's moving it around, right? There is narrative purpose, I should say. There's what you call it. Every line is leading to the next line with it's not just we need this information. There's a competence to it. There's a logical flow to the narrative. Okay. Or it could be something else. So right off the bat, what we're learning here is that this character doesn't necessarily know. They're just, so this is all these three lines are mostly character development with a touch of plot, but because it's unreliable, right? Because they don't know the truth. They're just making guesses. They're just, oh, maybe it's commentary. That's all. But it could be true. But it's interesting that they're doing. And now my mother used to tell me that I had an overactive imagination. Tom said that too. Okay, great. Great. All right. So this is plot and character development. The reason it's plot is because we're informative of her behavior. My mom used to tell me that I had an overactive imagination. Tom said that too. But it is mostly character development. Okay. Mostly character development. But we are learning there's a potential that the mother used to tell me. So there's a chance that the mother is dead and that unfortunately Tom might be dead. But again, we don't know yet. But there is a chance. There's a chance. All right, let's do this. I can't help it. I catch sight of these discarded scraps, a dirty t-shirt, or a lonesome shoe, and all I can think of is the other shoe and the feet that fitted into them. All right, so this is more commentary. This is more just thoughts and everything like that. But we are learning. This is all every line here is character development because it is through the emotional experience and choices of the character. They are choosing to notice this. They are choosing to notice this. This is their thoughts on it, their emotional thoughts. Okay. This is emotional thoughts. Emotional thoughts. This is emotional thoughts on describing their life and existence. And then this is personal self-awareness. I can't help it. So this is all character development so far. However, these three things are plot because these are true. These are true. There is indeed a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. The clothing is light blue cloth, a shirt perhaps jumbled up with something dirty or white, right? These are subjective reality because they are commentary on the potential of, but they are not fact yet, unreliable. And then this is just by the way, this is internal thought without it being like this, right? Because if I remember correctly, let me tell me, why'd you have to make things so complicated? Life seems like a joke. Yeah, none of this is italicized in the book, right? So this is just so you know, when you're out there writing, you don't always have to make she thought no, or I thought about how my mother used to tell me that I had overreactive imagination. Tom said that too. I can't help it. I catch myself, right? Now I know this is in first person, so you get a little bit more leeway with that. But even in third person, Like, let's say, all right, or it could be something else. Right. Let me do this. Just so you know, you can write it this way. Her mother used to tell her that she had an overactive. You say two. Oh, Rachel. Rachel can't help it. She catch sight of these discarded scraps, the dirty shoes, and all she can think of is the other. Okay, so you can do this, and this is still considered thought, but it's not italicized or she thought. She thought it could be something else. She thought. Like you could write it that way too, but you don't have to. All right. So keep that in mind when you're writing. Like these are great examples of not having the right internal monologue, but it's still internal though, because it's their observation of the thing. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So before we get to the second passage, I would like to say this. It has at least some plot, a little bit. The first two sentences are definitely plot. It definitely has character through the whole thing. We haven't really discovered world building yet, because world building explains the way things work, and we don't know how things work yet. But that's okay. Every sentence must have, at least including dialogue, must have one or more of these three elements: plot, character development, or world building. When I say plot, it means moves the plot forward. But I will say this: it doesn't have to have everything. It could have one or two, whatever. We notice that nothing is pure exposition or description for description's sake, because it is through the emotional experience and choices of the character. So that means stuff is actually happening because there are choices being made. There's agency, there's decisions, there's whatever the case may be, right? So let's talk about the movement of this. This is about noticing the clothes, describing the clothes, thinking about the clothes, and then why she is specifically paying attention to the clothes and why she is thinking about the clothes like she is. And it's because she has an overactive imagination, and because she's thinking about how her mother used to think of her and Thomas, she now defines it. She's explaining it. I can't help the way I think. I catch sight of these discarded scraps, so and so, and all I can think about is, where the other shoe is. Okay, we're learning something about her. And by the way, that's also a trick you can use. Like, see there's a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. You can, like, when you're thinking of story, like, what is ultimately happening? Well, the plot is, all right, she notices clothes, but she specifically notices the color of the clothes and how they're jumbled up, but she's not sure why they're there. But she starts kind of like playing with the idea of what's there, but she doesn't know for sure. And then it kind of like, so like if you're working on plot, this is sort of like what you could do. She notices clothes and their colors. Oop, that doesn't even look like colors. Colors. Okay. So like this is what I would do. This would be the plot, right? This is how I learned. She knows the colors. She doesn't know how they got there or why. She begins making up a reason they could be there, trying to justify, and then this makes me think about how Mom and Tom used to. She did that stuff all the time. And then, whatever. Maybe I don't have the last beat, but maybe that comes in through the writing. And this is just how you beat out. This is how you beat out a scene or a chapter, even a passage. And now you just kind of want to write that out. She notices clothes. All right. So there you go. If I was writing this in third person, you could just say a pile of clothing sat on the side of the train tracks. Okay, light blue cloth shirt, perhaps jumbled up with something dirty white. It's probably a rubbish part of a load dumped into the right, and you just write it out. You just write out the beats. That's it. Anyway, all right, I'm going off topic. Sorry, I get excited about this stuff. Let's keep going. All right, so now that we know how she thinks and blah 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 blah, the new movement. We're actually changing the movement. The train jolts and scrapes and screeches back into motion. The little pile of clothes disappear from the view, and we trundle on towards London, moving at the brisk. Okay. So this is what we call a transition. All right. We are transitioning from this movement to this movement using not only tactile, but sound. The train jolts and scrapes back into motion. Okay. The little pile of clothes disappear from view, meaning like they would, they're gone. And then we're traveling to London. So this is plot, by the way, because the train is doing something. It's moving. Where is it moving to? London. And that becomes world building because now we know that she's in our world. We don't know if it's fantasy. We don't know whatever. We just know she is in our world. We know what London is. So they are slowly building the world. It's not a mythical place. It's not an unknown place. We are aware that it's London. So there's world building and plot. I would also say there's a little bit of character in here because she's noticing the clothes disappearing, but that's just adding more movement. All right. Let's see. Someone in the seat behind me gives a sigh of helpless irritation. The 8:04 slow train from Ashbury to Euston contests the patience of the most seasoned commuter. So this is world building. This is plot. And this is character. So the reason is this is all three things. Someone in the seat behind me gives a sigh of helpless irritation. She is noticing that. It's 8:04 slow train from. So this part right here is world building and contest the patience of the most seasoned commuter. That's world building, but it's also plot because it's 8:04 and it's a train and they are going from Ashbury to. Okay, so if you notice. There's sentences so far. Every sentence is doing work. It's doing something and moving. There's no fluff. There's no moment of it going. Someone in the seat behind me gives sigh of helpless irritation, right? And then like out of nowhere, it starts saying, the train seats they were covered in, a fabric, a red velvet that wrapped over the top, and then a leather lining around the bottom. The chairs match the rug going down the center of the train. The red and green colors collided with the ceiling, the blandness of the beige ceiling. Like all that is not important, and it would slow down the pace. And yeah, it would describe and give. It would be like, oh well, now we know what the train looks like. But like, why would she be looking at that? She is saying seasoned commuter, meaning this is probably something she always does, right? Okay. And it's commentary on herself and the people around her, but she's not really paying attention to the train because the train becomes mundane for us. Like if you're from New York, you go from Long Island to the city, or you go from Brooklyn to the city every day, back and forth. Right? However, the clothes on the outside was something she noticed. Okay. But that doesn't mean she couldn't notice those things, but it would have to make narrative sense. It would have to make logical narrative sense. Okay. Let's keep going. The journey is supposed to take 54 minutes, but it rarely does. This section of the track is ancient, decrepit, beset with singling problems and never-ending engineering works. Okay, well, what do we learn here, guys and ladies and people and humans and creatures and cats and dogs? Because I got cats over here. We got some world building. All right, and this is commentary because it is from her emotional POV and choices. So the journey is supposed to take 54 minutes. Supposed to take. So that line is plot, it's character because it's commentary, but and it's also this is internal because she's thinking, but it rarely does. See, that's why it's internal thought. It's commentary. She's having thoughts on it. If it was narrative, it wouldn't be like that, right? This section of the track is ancient. This is world building, despite decrepit, beset with signaling problems and never-ending engineering work. So there is plot, there is character, and there is world building. All right, now we went from outside the train to inside the train and movement, and now we are going to get the train to stop pretty quick. Three passages, three prose, and we're already stopping the train. The train crawls along, or is it stopping? Oh no, it's still going. All right. Now we're in the trip. So this is the train starting to go because it. Now we're in it. Okay, that also makes narrative sense. The train crawls along. It judders past warehouses and water towers, bridges and sheds, past modest Victorian houses. Their backs turned squarely to the track. All right. A couple things are going on here. This is world building. Okay. This is not necessarily plot, though. Other than maybe the train crawls along. That could be plot because we're telling you the train is moving, but it isn't necessarily deep plot. This is mostly character and lots of world building. Why is it character? Because she is specifically looking out the window. That is a choice. She is choosing to look at she could be reading a book, she could be on her phone, she could be sleeping, but no, she's choosing to look out the window, which is how this book started. It started with her looking out the window. Okay. And she is noticing the warehouses and the water tower. She's looking at the bridges and the sheds. She's recognizing the Victorian houses. This means she knows what Victorian houses are because they could have just been houses. But because it is her POV, remember when you're writing, if it's first person, specifically if it's first person, but of course, omniscient also affects it. And you could do it in third person limited or close third person. But you have to think about who is the POV and what they are noticing means the information they recognize is based on what they know. So if she didn't know what Victorian houses were, it would probably just say houses. So just because you know the word and just because you want to describe it a certain way, right, doesn't mean that's the word to use. Because characters are making choices. The way they see the world is a choice. So you're creating the character through the words you're using, even if you feel you're only describing. And in this situation, we are learning that she knows what Victorian houses are. I know it's a small thing, but that happens. All right. My head leaning against the carriage window. So she's like, okay. I watch these houses roll past me like a tracking shot in a film. Oh. All right. This is more character development. She specifically said tracking shot in a film, like a tracking shot in a film, which means she watches films. She probably likes movies. It's telling of who she is as a character because that choice of description is through her emotional POV or experience. She's leaning her head on the window, so that's telling you how she's feeling. Oh, Jesus Christ. Right. I watch these houses roll past me. Like normally I'd probably like if I was I'd be like, oh, maybe I watch these houses roll. You might not need that. You could just say how the houses rolled. The houses roll past me like roll past me like because we know that watch is a filter word, But we already know that because look, the judge passed warehousing because we already know the train is passing. But this is indicating that she is specifically watching this, so it connects her to the experience. So that's fair. Oh, by the way, it is a filter word. Boop. So again, when people tell you, "Hey, don't put those," they look, they see, they watch. Watch is intentional, though. Watch is a choice. That's an action. They are watching. They are, they are studying. Okay, but if they see or look or hear, not so much. Listen is a stronger filter word than hear, because listening is intentful, has intention. I am listening. What? All right, where are we? We're almost done. See, we got done a little bit. I have that down there for a reason because I want to go over something. All right. I see them as others do not. Even their owners probably don't see them from this perspective. Ooh. This is character development. I see them as others do not. Okay. And if you want, we could go through the movement. Is she's on the train. What the train is moving along. She's starting to notice the buildings, the bridges, the Victorian houses. And it's nice that the Victorian houses were mentioned. And I said how that was important because this line is specifically about those houses. We'll get there in a second. Okay. So now that we know what she's looking at. How is she looking at it? We define that with my head leaning against the carriage window. And she is specifically watching these houses, Victorian houses, roll past like tracking shot in the film. What about these houses is she watching? Well, she sees them as others do not. Even their owners probably don't see them from this perspective. And then we continue on, right? Twice a day, I am offered a view into others' lives just for a minute. All right, we know she's a people watcher. Okay. Twice a day, I am offered a view into other lives just for a moment. So she goes on the train twice a day. That's plot, character development. I am offered a view. It's her perspective. It's her commentary on it. Just for a moment. All right. But the movement of this is explaining this. I see them as others do not. Even their owners probably don't see them from this perspective. The logical narrative movement is now we have to define that. Okay. Well, she's answering the question, well, how often does she do that? Okay. And what is she saying? Well, twice a day, and she offers the view into others just for a moment. There's something comforting about the sight of strangers safe at home. Okay. All right. This is more commentary and character development. That's why it becomes character development. There's something comforting about the sight of strangers safe at home. This is also a thought. She is thinking this, but it is not italicized. All right. Let's keep it going. Someone's phone. Okay. So let's talk about this. This is a static moment. I say static because they're not moving. She's acknowledging a pile of clothes, and then the train changes the movement, therefore a new passage, and it's through the jolts and scrapes that it transitions to on the train moving. She's on the train. We get it. Now, the train crawls along, it jutters past. This is another transition. This is a visual transition. All right. And it just kind of like gets us into the movement of the train. They've been going for a while, and it's what she's looking at while the train is moving. And then someone's phone is ringing. This transition is from looking outside the train to being aware of inside the train. So someone's phone is ringing, and in grounds. Dyslexia. Why is my brain not seeing this word? Oh, incongruously joyful. That's right. All right. My brain doesn't see words sometimes. All right. I know that's weird. It is weird. By the way, typing with a keyboard helped my dyslexia because when I write, I have to write in all capitals because I can, because if I don't, then like if I can't read script. I learned how to read and write in script, but like my dyslexia, it just looks really crazy. And then when I always started writing longhand, I was like getting difficult to read. And my handwriting's pristine though. Like I have like a clean handwriting because like I have to be able to articulate it. And but it was just so hard, and I couldn't like reread what I had written. So, but once I started writing with a keyboard, I got really good at the keyboard. Like, when I was in school, they had typing class where they put the paper over your hands and you have to type. But like my brain just started making sense of words. It's just in my head if I'm trying to spell out the word. That's where it gets a little difficult. But sometimes I just spell out words instinctively. Like I don't have to think of like certain words like the. It's just, Anyway, repetitiveness is helpful. Someone's phone is ringing, in cordialously joyful and upbeat song. Nice. They're slow to answer. It jingles on and on around me. Oh, wait, I got it. This is plot because something is happening that it is pulling her from looking out the window to inside the train. All right. That is not necessarily character development, though. Except for this moment. I would accept this because she is choosing to describe it that way. All right. They're slow to answer. It jingles on and on around me. This is more plot. They're slow to answer. That might actually be considered a character because she's paying attention to how it's taking them a little bit. I can feel. See, look. Filter words exist. And writers who have 20 million sales, they use them. So don't feel like you can't use filter words. I can feel my fellow commuters shift in their seats, rustle their newspapers, tap at their computers. Okay. All right. Also, I have that. Maybe if I do this, put this here. Hey. And then let me close this. All right, there we go. All right. I have so many screens, and some of the screens are smaller than others. All right, not the screens, but like the way it's seen. I should be wearing my glasses. Look at that. No, I'm not gonna do it. I just made it bigger. All right. So I can feel my fellow commuters shift in their seats, rustling the newspapers, tap on their phones. So this is character and plot. Okay, it's not world building. Oh wait, all right. Because they are they have newspapers in this world and they have computers in this world. So that defines the era. So we know that it's technological sound, and that's how it works. So we know there's a cell phone as well. Oh, this is world building. Someone's phone is ringing, so it's cell phone. So that's world building. The train lurches and sways around the bend, slowing as it approaches a red signal. Ooh, nice. Look at the red signal. This is just plot. Okay. I try not to look up. I try to read the free newspaper I was handed on the way into the station, but the words blur in front of my eyes. Nothing holds my interest. All right, so she has ADHD. That's character development. Okay. Plot is I try not to look up. I don't think this is plot. This ain't plot. Except for this. Handed. Yeah, that's plot because she was heading to the thing. It's past tense though. All right. So I try not to look up. I try to read the free newspaper. That's world building. Handed on a thing, but I just can't because my eyes don't hold interest. That's character development. See how like every sentence is literally doing one or more of those three things. All right, let's look at this one, and then we're done. I get to show you the thing one of the reasons I wanted to do this. All right. In my head, I can still see that little pile of clothes lying at the edge of the track, abandoned. Ooh, nice. Ooh. I like to just say it goes back to the beginning. Like this This line brings us back to that very opening. Okay. So that means she's been thinking about this the whole time because that retrogrades everything that just happened. In my head, I can still see that little pile of clothes lying at the edge, abandoned. This is character development and plot. Now, I want to bring up this, okay? Evening at the firehouse. So when you do like a hard chapter break, okay, sometimes you would do this. Oop. Right? And then this wouldn't exist. Oop. Son of a. Whatever. Okay. It would just be this. This would be a hard chapter break, or they would do this, right? Whatever the case. Boop. All right. It would either be that or a line. But what she's doing is she wrote evening. She used a time frame. She has another one that says Monday, July 8th, 2013. And then it says morning. So, what does this tell you about writing in general? Writing is a creative outlet. It is a medium that requires you to enjoy the freedom of trying things. Usually they say, hey, you got to use the three stars or the line, whatever the case may be. But you are not beholden to the structure. We learn rules so we can break rules. And she's using the hard chapter breaks as a chance to sort of like inform the audience of the time. Not only that, but there comes a moment where the hard chapter breaks start becoming dates, but it's also the time of day. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to play with things. You're not, you're allowed to have filter words, feel, watched. Okay. Here's another thing you hear a lot of. See this? TH, TH, TH. Okay. And the twice in a row. They tell you, like, if I bring it out a little bit. Oh, wait, that's too small for you. All right. The and the. Okay. Some commentary you get, especially from editors, like line editors, or even, mostly line editors. They'll be like, oh, you have the twice in a row. Not only does she have the twice, and she has the train. The train. All right. But she also has two TH words. TH, TH, three TH words. I mean, and then someone's phone is ringing, right? The other thing is, let's see, it and it directly after each other. I know it's, but it's probably rubbish. It could have, right? There's some people say, oh, you're not supposed to have the two same words in a row. You got to switch it up. But if we look at our sentence structure, though, this is important. This is something that is important, right? She has, what is this? 13 words long. This one is 9 words long. And this one's really, what is this? Probably 20. Oh, 16. No. All right. So 13, 9, 16. There's a rhythm. Let's see what this one's at. This is 20. Oh, that's the 20. And then here's a short one. This is 6. Right? And then this one's probably 16. Yeah, 16. And then this one's probably 25, 35. All right. So this creates the rhythm, the jazz. Da da down down do 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 down da 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 down, and then down down do do do, and then some more jazz, and it's ba da da bop. And then the nice long one. Okay, there's rhythm to it. There's a movement, and breaking up your. She does it. These are 3 really long ones because the pace is slow here. This slows the pace down because this is important. She's like, the character is definitely in this moment. She's paying attention, but when she starts thinking about it and she starts paying attention to things, that's where the rhythm changes up again. You see how the sentence lengths are different? Same thing here. All right. So you do have to change up the sentence length. But what you don't have to worry about, this book sold 20 million copies. This book was published. This book made itself out. Now, I will say it's 2015 that this book came out. So things do change. But sometimes it's like, come on. It's probably rubbish, part of a load, right? It could have been left. Or It could be something else. This isn't all like this, right? Oh, it's supposed to be thoughts. Well, no, it's just, whatever it is. I can't help it. I catch sight of these discarded scraps. Dirty t-shirt. All right. Let's see what else. Here's the and the. She's the. Just 3 sentences. They're all very long, and she uses the and the. Let's see. This one she changes it up a little bit. The, my, I, twice, theirs. Someone's there. I, the train. I, in. And you're thinking, yeah, but sometimes, first person, you're gonna say I. That's the other thing. You do want to try not to I. Or me, or or she, he, right? So it's nice to sort of be like, let's start from the perspective of what we notice. So if we are in a store, I would say, if I was to write this as like, we go over here, and then we'll call it a day. Like, so there is a pile of clothing on the side of the train tracks. Like, if you start with a thing, you go, each, every shelf lingered in its emptiness. Every shelf lingered in its emptiness. A bottle of water. Not a bottle of water. Bread. Or the ever elusive toilet paper. That's the way storms in Texas. I should say Long Island. Long Island. That's the way storms in Long Island activate fear in people. Fear in most Long Islanders. All right, let me lingered, emptiness, activate, elusive. Okay. I never get worried. Give me a few cans of SpaghettiOs. Pepsi. I'm good, brother. Man. He's been searching for beef jerky this whole time. All right. There has to be SpaghettiOs. Pepsi. I drink Pepsi all the time. Did you see what just happened? I spelled it wrong. That's what happens. SpaghettiOs. Probably wondering why I have the red lines off. It's because I don't like seeing the red lines. It gets me, it makes me anxiety build up. So if you notice, I didn't write. I just have I here and my. But you could start. Remember to start your sentences. Like, change up the way the sentences start. Change up what you're focusing on. And again, this is first person. It's all in there. Every shelf lingered in its emptiness. Not a bottle of water, bread, or the ever elusive toilet paper. So even writing this is obviously this is in the experience of the character because it's in their POV, but it's also plot, and we're starting to build the world. So that's all 3 things. This is definitely that's the way storms, I should say, on Long Island. On Long Island activate the fear in most Long Islanders. This is character, and this is plot, and this is world building. I never get worried. This is just character. Give me a few cans of SpaghettiOs and a Pepsi, and I'm good. All right. So this is all first person. I'm trying to copy the style. And then my brother, on the other hand, well, he's been searching for whatever. All right, so this line right here is character development. This line is also character development for the brother, but it's also plot. They've been searching for something, so something's happening. So when you're writing, looking at these examples, remember that you don't have to just worry about like italicize. You don't have to worry about all the rules. You can break rules. Don't worry. Just write what you have to write. Just get your story out, and don't get obsessed with all the little things, especially because you can put your filter words in, etc., etc. What I definitely think you should get out of this though is these rules, or not rules. These are the things you're looking out for when you go back through. Stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. What would that look like if we took this? If I took this passage away and made it its own passage, and then this was its like this is something is happening, but nothing is happening. And the reason is, yeah, this line does have world building and plot, and this line has world building and plot, but stuff is happening, but nothing is happening when it is not expressing the story. And remember, all narratives are made of plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what, and story is how it unfolds emotionally, how it unfolds through the character's emotions and choices. So the moment I bring this to that passage, this all becomes the character's emotional choice. They are choosing to notice these things. Okay. They have commentary on these things. All of that becomes stuff is actually happening now. There is a purpose to why those shelves lingered in its emptiness, not a bottle of water, bread, or the ever elusive toilet papers. There's personality here, the ever elusive, right? It's character. It wasn't character before because there was no POV attached to it. So you want to do that. You want to always make sure that every line, including dialogue, has at least one or more of these three elements. Plot is moving forward, right? Plot is moving forward, okay? Character development or world building, okay? You don't want pure exposition. If I took this away and just did this, okay? This whole passage, this becomes pure exposition. And it becomes description for description's sake, especially if I go, that's the way storms are. Okay. Right? So as soon as I do this, now these two things vanish, this pure exposition. These vanish because it is through the emotional experience and choices of a character's POV. All right. But again, when you're writing your stuff, you also want to challenge positions and choices. Okay. This is the starting of a chapter. So all we're doing is establishing positions. What are we establishing? Well, we're establishing that they purposely focus on the horizon, right? The village, the Victorian houses, right? They pay attention to that kind of stuff. The way they look at the world, that's establishing their position. Okay, the things that they're noticing, the way they look at this, I can't help it. I catch sight of these, I discard scraps, and this is a position. Okay. My mother used to tell me that I had an overactive imagination. Tom said it too. That's a position. Does she or does she not have the overactive imagination? That's something that will be explored. She has ADHD. That's a position she has ADHD, so she can't focus. She goes, oh, here's. I try not to look up. I try to read the free newspaper. She wants to read, but she can't. The words blur in front of her eyes because nothing holds her interest. That becomes a position. So we are creating positions, and those positions are being created to challenge. You can challenge them right away, but right now they are not necessarily being challenged. You could technically argue that this might be a challenge, that they do have ADHD and they're trying to read, but they can't because their eyes just blur. But it's through narrative that we're learning that, through choice that we're learning that. So that's okay. And then, of course, you want to maintain uh, a POV, okay, and the tenses. And this whole thing does. This is all through her. You can switch tenses. Not you can switch POVs. Don't get me wrong. You're allowed to. You're allowed to go into other people's brains and you're allowed to move around. You just have to have good, strong transitions, smooth transitions. Like if there was another, like if we wanted to go into this person, someone's phone is ringing. That phone, we could be someone's phone is ringing. Whatever they're. If we describe them, maybe it's like, oh, uh, their face seemed annoyed. At their face annoyed at the caller. Whatever. You can kind of like. I'd have to think about that a little bit, but someone's on the phone. Like if you could use the phone ringing, right, as the transition, and the main character noticing that person, you could use the movement of that. It's sort of like in a fight scene. If it's like, Thomas shot his arrow across the field. It flew past 14 soldiers, landing next to Jacob, who swung their sword with ever fierce, ever fearful, or whatever. The fierce, there's this fierce strength flooded through the field, cracking his axe. Like the arrow going there is next to Jacob. Jacob becomes the new focal point, and now we get to move through Jacob, and Jacob, slams his axe next to Bob, saving him from the mighty dragon. Bob smiles, nodding his head, ever grateful, as the dragon's foot comes smashing down just before, as Bob rolls out of the way. He stands up. He screams at the dragon. But now we're in Bob, so we just moved through three people. So you can move the POV through a scene. You're allowed to do that, but you just got to have the clear transitions. Anyway, okay. What's next? Let's close that. Boop. And let's go here. And then let's do final thoughts. Oh, by the way, things change. Just remember the way and the style people write do change over the years. So what I just showed you from 2015, which is at the time of this video is going to be now 10 years, something's changed. So a lot of stuff right now, exposition is usually integrated more subtly into the narrative, revealed through dialogue, action, and characters. Things are a little bit more clear and straightforward. Like they don't linger a lot, So keep that in mind. Final thoughts. Paula Hawkins, the girl on the train, gave us an opportunity to basically show us how an unreliable narrator can be put into a position that impacts the character's voice. Because remember, they didn't know for sure how the clothes got there. They were just speculating, which already starts you off going, all right, this character will give us their thoughts and opinions, but they don't necessarily know. And then two passages later, they're like, one passage later, it's, I have an over and active imagination. My mother told me I did, and so did Thomas. So now we know that she plays with ideas. And then literally the third passage is her talking about how like she gets a glimpse into these people's worlds, these lives, and she thinks about them. So it's all relative, right? And it's all unreliable. It's an unreliable narrator because we know she makes things up. So getting a chance to look at these things allows us to basically take on not necessarily her style, but to relate it to our own style when we're looking at our writing and how it is working. Is it moving? Is it saying more than what is happening? Is there depth to it? Are the characters being developed? Are they being shown? Because everything we just saw, the way she looks at the houses, the fact that they're Victorian houses, the fact that she's talking about her mother and Tom saying that she has an over and active imagination, and then she's literally having an over and active imagination in the first passage before we even get there. That's the other thing. You want to also present things before you qualify them. And what that means is if I have a character and they go, Jacob is so smart. He's strong. Everyone loves him. And then he comes into the room. That's not as powerful as showing Jacob come into the room. People are loving him. They're talking to him. They like him. He's very personable. And then in conversation, he can hold himself. He's articulate. Maybe he's not articulate. Maybe he has like low-born dialogue, but at the same time, he's quick. He's witted. He is able to keep up with the story. He's able to keep up with the different people in the conversation. Now he's smart, right? Now, because it's been established, a character can make claim to that and qualify it. They could be like, oh, Jacob was kind of smart. I didn't realize how much he was loved around here. Yeah, it's been like that for years. Now that's okay. But you have to show before you qualify. If you qualify first, then you have to spend the entire book trying to prove that. Because everything's a lie when it's said. You know what I'm saying? Like even if I go, trolls come around here only once a year. All right, that's technically a lie until we have proof, even though because it's just straight telling. But if you see trolls and then like you don't see trolls for a while, and then you sort of kind of see trolls again, now maybe there's some truth to it, right? But you can create mystery too. You can have characters that seem or are well versed in something, and you could do that. But usually, when it comes to characters and showing them, you want to represent them through their behavior and their words, and then qualify that through the perception of other people. All right, next video in the series, we are going to look at Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, which is an adult psychological thriller, another one. But this one is domestic noir crime, and it is fiction. Question. Do you enjoy reading unreliable narrators? Do you yourself like writing unreliable narrators? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you like what you've been seeing and these videos are becoming helpful, please subscribe and hit the bell icon if so you don't miss out. Okay. I guess other than that, give it a little thumbs up. That helps. And keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.